Good afternoon and welcome to the Athens City Planning Commission meeting. It is Thursday, Groundhog's Day, February 2nd, and it is about 12:01. To begin with, I know we have people who are here today, and if you plan to speak before the commission, I ask that you raise your right hand, and do you solemnly swear to what information you're going to provide before the Planning Commission be truthful and honest? Wonderful. Thank you, and thanks for being here. Disposition of the January 19th meeting minutes of 2023. Everyone should have those in your packet. The only one.
I wasn't.
Yep.
So I'll move we accept the minutes as presented.
Second.
All right. Any other discussion, comments, or corrections to those minutes? All right. Hearing none. All in favor of adopting signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Those minutes have been adopted. I failed to mention we have a quorum. We are minus one commissioner today, but everyone else is here, so we do have a quorum. Cases. We don't have any cases today. Communications, we do. Title 41, this is 960 East State Street. There's a commercial development for Chipotle and Starbucks, and it is by RPG Management. Director Riggs, do you want to kick us off?
Thanks, Mayor and members of the Planning Commission. This is a project that we've seen before. A year and a half ago, they came to this developer came to Planning Commission with a similar communication. They've made some significant changes to that plan since then, so my recommendation is that we come back for another communication to City Council or to Planning Commission before we go to the case. So this is an existing site. Couple notes that I have in my memo to the Commission is that there are some slip potential soils on this property. So the developer has recommended the developer has proposed a retaining wall there. We did ask that they either provide a excavation bond or have the upsite property owner additionally insured as insurance coverage for this slip potential. This actually, to me, it looks like the site is actually in a slip condition right now. You can see that it's rolled and it does have some potential for any kind of work out there to cause a continual slip. So I thought that would be important. These are two separate buildings, and they're providing a shared access traffic circulation pattern. So if you look at this, you'll see that there's two existing access points to this property. They're going to utilize both of those. They will share the circulation of traffic through the site. At some point, this project may split into two separate lots. We want to make sure that if that happens, that we maintain some kind of easement or access through that property to continue continuity of the traffic.
Okay. Would anybody from RPG like to come forward and speak on this as well? We have before us the geotechs from CTL Engineering, Inc. that has clearly done an extensive study of the site.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Just
My
state your
name's
name.
Jared Decker. I'm the real estate director for the PM company. Our company and RPG are 50-50 partners on the deal. If you remember, we had, I think you were right, David, a year and a half ago or so, we were here with a different layout, and we were on the precipice of getting this deal finalized and trying to get under construction middle to late last year. And unfortunately for us, the last step we did as part of our homework and due diligence was the geotechnical evaluation of the site, and it came back horribly. What we're showing here on this drawing as it pertains to the wall is, I don't know, I've built quite a few walls, and this is by far the Ferrari of walls that I've seen or been a part of. This is a $600,000 retaining wall, just to put into perspective kind of what it is and what we hope it'll do. So confident that we've got the slip issue addressed, confident that we've taken care of Mrs. Stout, the neighbor above us. And we're at the point of trying to get the site plan finalized and get going on this. We'd love to break ground in April if we could. And the most recent change we made was to the traffic pattern. There was some concern that the loads generated by these two retailers would overwhelm, if you will, the single access point. I think it would have been close, but better safe than sorry. We went ahead and decided to spend the money and make the investment to put the second access point in to relieve any concern on that front. Other than that, I hope you guys all have a copy of the site plan. If not, I've brought a few with me. Happy to give them to you, and happy to answer any questions for you that you might have.
Yeah, we do have the site plan. Everyone should have both the geotech and the plans.
The driveway that's to the, I guess, west, is that a common driveway with the credit union? Is that the credit union that you're next to, or not? Am I wrong? Is
That's
it
a
further down?
multifamily apartment building.
Okay.
And then there are two residential structures up
Okay.
that road, one on the left side and one on the
Okay,
right
so
side.
that's a public right-of-way?
It's private, actually, but there is a private right-of-way for those adjacent properties. Our property is encumbered by that right-of-way.
Okay, okay. And tell me, how high is the retaining wall approximately?
So, way up there is an inadequate answer. I can appreciate that. It varies in height between 6 and 8 feet, I believe. With the way the ground lays, it's 2 feet higher in some places. The important part about that wall is it would have saved us tremendous money and time to build it further down the hill, closer to our development, but it would have been less effective. So the goal is the further up the hill you push it, the more stability it provides to everything that's above it. Because as David said, that hill today is slipping down. So we pushed it all the way to the boundary line to make it sort of as Loctite as it can be. But it's a heck of a big, strong wall.
What's the risk of material sliding to the west of the wall? Because the wall doesn't go all the way across the back part of the property.
It doesn't, and the slope kind of levels out there is the reason that wall, there is not the slip is somewhere in the middle, that the primary slippage is somewhere in the middle of that wall. Okay. So the reason that wall doesn't go all the way to the western boundary is because the elevations of that hillside didn't dictate that it needed to, per the engineers.
Yeah, so the engineers are saying this will do the job.
Yes, sir. It better.
Yes, I agree.
You know, I did have a conversation with one of our commissioners, Commissioner Stone, about this site and this location, and just for the other commissioners so that it was his opinion that with these two facilities and its location with traffic flowing in and out, that this is a more optimal location for something like this as opposed to something that would be further west. I don't know if there's any developable property any further west, but, you know, to have this where it's situated, he certainly felt good about that. You know, this is a property that has been fallow for quite some time, and being cognizant of the slip concerns and your level of confidence with the engineering of this and having the detailed geotech as to what's going on underground or on top of the ground, that, you know, I personally think this can work.
You know, it's interesting on those walls, this may be more than you want to know, but we can't determine if it's insurance rates or lawyers filing lawsuits against people, but, you know, the way these engineers rate things is by safety factor. So, you know, if 100% is what we think is just enough to get it done, you know, in years past, 1.2 or 1.3x of what we think the baseline is what we got. And so now when we start engineering these walls, you're looking at 1.7, 1.8. So they're getting close to doubling the strength of these products, because obviously no one wants it coming back on them. So this wall, we've built a lot of them, and we were absolutely shocked when this design and cost estimates came in, because it's just, I mean, frankly, it's unnecessary, but it's, you know, it is the top of the line, you know, over-engineered to death wall product. So I definitely feel like we can stand behind it as a company.
It's not gonna be poured in place, is it?
No, so we'll bore holes anywhere from 30 to 40 feet deep, pour concrete in the bottom of that hole, set the steel I-beam in, pour concrete around the I-beam, and then slide lag units in between the steel posts, kind of akin to what you'd see on the side of the highway somewhere, holding up an exit ramp.
Right. Okay. And the Commissioner Stone felt pretty comfortable with what he was looking at. Is that fair to say?
It is fair.
Okay.
Fair. And, well, and Director Riggs, you have your
Well,
PE
yeah,
as well.
he's an
You know,
engineer too, that's right.
We actually got a certified letter from the engineer stating that he did follow the recommendations of the engineering firm that did the geotechnical report, and they're confident that it's designed as best as they can do it.
Okay.
I also have, I actually have some comments from Director Stone. I don't know if this would be appropriate to, so he has 4 or 5 comments, if I could just go through those real quick. The developer should provide an initial traffic impact data information to the city. This is not a full-blown traffic study, but we'd like to have counts of trip generations for the peak and peak demand, and for the hours of operations that you think these two sites are going to have. We'd like to have, we talked about the bonding, so we'd like to either have bonding or some kind of insurance associated with the retaining wall.
Yes, sir.
There's a sanitary sewer force main in front of this project, and you may not have gotten to the utility end of it, but there's a force main here. So on the east side, I think there's a manhole. You might be able to gravity to that, but it's something that we need, the city staff and the engineer need to work on to be able to get that sewer to work the way we think it should. And then we'd really like to look at fats, oils, and grease and water supply as well, what you were planning to do with that. And then finally, I think you're going to be okay, but this is a special flood hazard area. It looks like you're going to be building up the site above that base flood elevation. Just want to make sure that you're aware of that.
Yes, sir.
All right. That's his comments.
And are these single tenant buildings?
They are.
Okay.
They are.
Initially, weren't you going to do 2 buildings with 2 tenants each?
We
A year
were.
and a half ago? Okay. Yeah, no.
We actually eliminated, we were going to put the Starbucks building, which is the westernmost building, we were going to build that as a 2-tenant building, but we decided to get rid of the second tenant to further mitigate any traffic concerns. That was our goal there, is just take all those customers out of the equation and live with just these 2 tenants. And I think, you know, the traffic study, I think, is something we can discuss or maybe do. I don't know, regardless of what the information says, I don't know, to me, there is not a viable load mitigation mechanism, if you will. So for instance, let's say it's, you know, over the city's tolerance or over the Ohio Department of Transportation's tolerance. You know, what is the answer? Well, it's certainly not a suicide lane or a middle turning lane. That's already there. Really the only thing that traffic study could spit out is potentially a deceleration lane on the north side of East State Street. And I just, the feasibility of that, I think, is.
Yeah, we don't think that's gonna be necessary. What we wanna do is take those trip generations and put that into our traffic signal system to be able to see if we can improve that. When those new counts come in, if we can improve the timing on that existing system. That's what we need that information
it.
for.
Yeah, it's more on us,
Yep.
so that we can make sure we can tweak the signalization up and down East State Street.
So David, what is that, precisely what, I mean, I know you said go out and count cars, peak hours. Is that something that,
So I don't even think you need to go that far. What we want is for you to provide us what you think the peak trip generation is gonna be for this proposed development and the hours of operation. So we can take that traffic information and then use that in our system to help make sure that our traffic signal system is actually working.
yes, sir, understood. These tenants actually live pretty harmoniously together, with Starbucks being an AM driver, Chipotle being more of a
Correct.
lunchtime, nighttime driver. So
Yep.
we think they are pretty good neighbors to one another.
I have one other comment I'd like to make, and I don't know that it has anything, that it drives the developer necessarily, but I think we ought to be looking at some crosswalks in some, around this area or down this way. You know, we've got a couple of crosswalks back toward the pool and the community center. But I think with both Starbucks and Chipotle, we may have employees wanting to walk across, you know, from one of the businesses to get something to eat. It would be nice to have some crosswalk ability there somewhere. I don't know, you know, I don't know if it makes sense to be right there by that location, but somewhere, you know, I just think we ought to look at that. Somebody ought to look at that, I guess.
I think, to speak to that, I think the closest sidewalk may in fact be at Kroger, where Kroger crosses over to
Okay.
Odd Lots
Yeah.
and Atomic Bank Credit Union, which then would, you know, another, I don't know, 50 yards, 100 yards down
It's real
from there.
close, okay. If you think that we're okay with that.
I think we are. I think we are okay. And to your point, and I agree with you, I mean, your point though, to employees or even residents, the bulk of that is on that north side of State Street, so they would be accessing via that sidewalk on the north side. But no, your point's well taken.
Yeah, I think there are, yeah, probably. I mean, there are some businesses there, the shopping center next to Kroger's and things where, you know, it'd be nice if we didn't have to put cars on the road and people felt comfortable that they could get there in a reasonable amount of time and safely. So that's my thinking on that whole thing.
I have a small question. Is this is not our water, right? It's gonna be from the other side of the, because it's down from where we stop
No, this would be on the city's water system.
on the city's water system? Okay.
Because beyond that is, as you keep going down, on that side of the street is Hope Drive, and the residences along Hope Drive, which are fed by the city's water system,
Yeah,
I believe so.
okay. I was worried about that. It's a minor thing.
This is exciting. Thanks for all your work on this.
No problem. We appreciate the help and David's guidance, certainly. I think with this information, David, unless I'm mistaken, we owe you a set of civil drawings and some traffic count data. We'd love to be back as soon as we can. Like I said, we've got tenants breathing down our neck and contractors and everything else, so we're starting to feel the heat for sure to get this thing going and off the ground here in the next 8 weeks or so.
Well, just to inform you, the process from here, since it's come to us as a communication under Title 41, then it would come back under Title 41. What's the time frame, David?
Maybe we could do it at the next meeting, which would be February 16th. That's pretty tight. I don't know if you can get your civils done that quick, because I really need to have it next week so we could get it on the 16th. Otherwise, we could wait till the first March meeting.
Sure. So we meet twice a month,
Right.
and they're always 2 weeks apart. So just keep that in mind as well, to where at this point, the ball's in your court to come back as a case, which would be the next move.
Right, and so once we're in as a case, let's assume it's probably the March, first, second, whatever that day is. We'll try to get them to you next week, but I'm not gonna count on it. So let's assume it's that first week of March. Then is that first reading, second reading, site plan approval at the second reading?
So then so the way this will work is you'll actually get approval from the planning commission, assuming you get approval, you get everything done that we've requested.
Yes, sir.
You get approval from that. You may need to go to Shade Tree Commission for the final, for the landscaping plans. But after that approval, you'll have several permits that you get from our office, and we'll have a pretty quick turnaround on those.
Okay. So theoretically, by the end of March,
That's possible.
that's, okay.
Could be quicker than that.
I like the sound of that.
This doesn't have to go to city council.
Ball's in our court though, so we gotta get going.
This isn't a city council action, it's planning, and as you mentioned, shade tree, trees.
There's no variances or anything that are necessary, so we don't have to go to the,
Cool.
yeah. So you gotta get the state permit too.
Mr. Dulac,
So can I comment?
you can absolutely
Thank you.
comment if you choose to, on this particular
Thanks.
communication.
Yes, on this. Rob Delac, living on Morris Avenue here in the city. I want to commend Commissioner Stokowski's comment that keeping an eye on crossing is important here. I think it's a good thing to consider at least. It is about a quarter mile to the Walmart entrance, which is where the one crosswalk is in the west, and a tenth of a mile that way and a quarter mile the other way to get to the Lowe's signal. So it's a little far, even for East State Street, but the tenth of a mile to Walmart may not be ridiculous. So, but looking at that is something I think we should be thinking about as a city. The other thing just to mention is currently, if you look at the apron that's there now, it's designed well to meet the sidewalk effectively. So it has a slope to the sidewalk, levels off at the sidewalk so it connects to a flat sidewalk, and then slopes down to the street again. That's a really good design, and I'd like to encourage the commission to keep that in mind when they see a design for this site, to look at the aprons and make sure that they do create a flat pedestrian structure across the apron, so that it isn't a hazard for people with accessibility and mobility needs in particular. And then also consider the condition of the sidewalk. It looks, I haven't physically looked at it, but looking at images, it looks like it's in decent shape, but I'm not sure if it needs updating. That's something I think we should be considering as well. If that should be a requirement for this project, is to update the sidewalk. At least to make sure it's a good accessible path through this project and not make it worse.
Very good,
Thanks.
thank you. Okay, reports from the Director of Development and Code Enforcement.
Mayor, I have nothing.
Okay. Opportunities for citizens to speak on things not covered on the agenda today? Nothing from you, Mr. Dulac? Okay. Announcements and other business. Our next meeting will be February 16th here in council chambers at noon. And other than that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Got a second?
Second.
All right, our business is complete.